Welcome to Step Up, the radio show that highlights people in business doing amazing things. Today, we have David Wolf, who is podcast and radio guru, and that's his business name. He started out as a music producer and then naturally went off into having his own syndicated show highlighting thought leaders and business people all around the world. David, thank you so much for being on the show. What do you have to say today?
Dr. Margarita, so good to be with you. Thank you for having me on Step Up.
Always a pleasure. You grace us. One of the things I thought we talked about today is just everyone seems to want to spread the word about what they're doing. And please explain to me a little bit about your podcasting, your ideas of it, what you think of it, etc. Share your ideas.
Thank you. This is a good place to start. At the highest level, as a music producer, kind of going through a series of business pivots of my own, I discovered after going through an entrepreneurial journey myself that the road for entrepreneurs is not an easy one. And I wanted to capture the voices of entrepreneurs across America. So this program I started, Small Biz America, was really born with the curiosity about what makes entrepreneurs tick. And so I literally randomly started asking people to be on my show. And at that time, it was just a 90-second little spot feature that was syndicated, but pre-podcast. It was syndicated as a radio show, and they popped it into about 75 markets. So from that perspective, it got me into radio, and it got me into learning how to interview and develop a skill around interviewing after so many years of not really being on mic. I was never the subject of the programming I was producing. That transition to interviewing people and still getting better at it was part of the practice, and it evolved into a production service to help businesses create more authority online, more brand awareness, and ultimately convert sales by generating their own content with them as the expert. So today I help entrepreneurs and business leaders do that.
Well, as a matter of fact, you're helping me with 3 of my podcasts, and I'm grateful for that. You're helping spread the word all around America. So please explain, why should someone invest the time and energy in doing a podcast?
There are a lot of things about podcasting that are quite beautiful as a business owner and a business leader and someone who's trying to grow a business. First of all, it creates a context for the very doing of the podcasting is huge for a lot of business people, because they're not used to showing up and creating and facilitating a conversation about who they are and what they do in their business and their life. And in a world where everyone wants to do business with those that they know, like, and trust, I think it's quite critical that business owners become fluent at being able to facilitate conversations, not only about what they do, but about who they are. So it's a huge exercise to just show up on a weekly or a bi-monthly basis and create conversations. It allows a business owner to begin to develop their own voice so that they can begin to train their listeners, their fans, their audience, their prospects about how to frame and talk about their business. You're literally, by showing up every week, training people and helping them language what it is about your business that you do best. I have something I call the power of invitation. And many business owners choose to do an interview format, although that's not the only way to do it. And you and I have talked about this offline. Some show hosts, they're in business, they're hosting a show weekly. It might be video, it might only be audio. A great deal of what I do is only audio. We could talk about that separately. But simply by inviting their prospects, their past customers, their current customers, their stakeholders, the other thought leaders in the space that they're operating in it with their business, it's an extremely powerful networking technique. And so when you invite someone to be on your radio show, no one says no, right? So it just brings them into your conversation in a way that's that's really profoundly useful for expanding your own network.
So someone who wants to expand their network and share their knowledge and increase sales, where do they start?
Well, I've got a wonderful video that does a much more, a very concise job of talking about this thing you call a starting point, which is quite essential because many business owners they're busy with the business of their business and they don't necessarily know what it takes to generate content, let alone do a podcast or even a video version of their podcast. So the starting point is really a consultative engagement with me. We talk for however long it takes, 30 minutes, an hour. And we really talk about the needs of the business because I believe all of this content generation stuff should emanate from what a business needs most. And usually it's one of a couple things. It's either growing their fan base, brand awareness, or actually something measurable in the way of ROI to conversions of sales. So the starting point is we talk about who they are, what their business does, what they expect from the podcast experience, what they expect from generating content on a regular scheduled basis in terms of business growth. And then we reverse engineer the production of the content into that end.
And what does that mean, reverse engineer?
No, reverse engineer, it's great. So that's my way of saying, look, here's a business owner that wants to generate more leads. So what we have to do is start from, okay, who do they want? Who is their target audience? Who do they want to generate leads with? Where do they show up? What's the best mechanism to reach them in terms of, is it Facebook? Is it LinkedIn? Is it a landing page that's customized for them with a sales opt-in idea? Is it simply generating a mailing list, an email list to which they remarket to? There are a variety of mechanisms in the universe of the online world, online sales, which is where we're showing up with this content, to lead to sales, to lead to an engagement. So we really want to, what reverse engineer means is we want to determine what's the best content to engage viewers or listeners, and then to drive them to do something, a call to action that's meaningful for the business owner to grow their business.
I just had a conversation with a few franchise owners from an insurance company. And one of the questions they had to ask is, what do I need to do to start? They asked about equipment, then they asked about a setup.
That's something that comes up a lot because there's a lot out there online about equipment and setup and microphones and cameras and all of that stuff. And one of the things I set out to do when I started podcastingradio.com was really to strip away a lot of this technical stuff so that, listen, I'm dealing with a business owner that may never have been talking to a camera or into a microphone, right? So the idea is to make this as easy and as natural for them so that we're really getting the authentic them when we capture this content. And they're not bombarded by having to learn new things about how to record, how to create videos, how to save the video, how to edit the video. So what our service does is essentially take whatever the aptitude of the business owner is, because there's a spectrum of them. Some are much more adept at audio recording and they even do the editing themselves. I have clients that literally do their own editing and drop it in a Dropbox, and then I assemble the show and post it to their platform, their distribution platform. I have others that are really green around this stuff, and they need a lot of help in terms of, at whatever level in that spectrum to get the content produced in a way that I can then work with and manage and make it into a show or a consumable piece of nugget of content for the internet. So there are a variety of ways that I may help entrepreneurs, thought leaders, business owners produce the media. Did I actually answer your question?
You did. And maybe I should say how you helped, because I can say what you did to help me. What I was most surprised is that you helped to make the process very easy. So when I would do a video, whether it's on Zoom or Skype, you would strip the audio for a podcast and then make little snippets for the video. You would add words and titles and a beautiful intro. I love what you did with Step Up. You would help me brand each of the podcasts. And I was shocked that you did the graphics. And we have a shared Dropbox. So anything I do that when you're not around, like when I'm in the field doing interviews, I just automatically copy that interview to our shared source video Dropbox, and you take it from there. So I like that it's kind of, for me, a one-stop shop, and it's been really easy working with you. So well, did I miss something that you do?
No, thank you for that. That's beautiful. I mean, and first of all, tribute to you. You're actually quite technically adept. Not everyone is. So again, I come in at different levels depending on who I'm working with. Um, in some cases, people are really, really natural at the interview process, and you are one of those people. Look, I'm still a student of doing good interviews, so I like to work with people interactively to just get the best out of them. There's no right or wrong way to do this stuff, to do this interview thing. What I try to do is get the best that can come from my clients in the context of doing these interviews or even doing monologues, if that's the preferred choice. Some of our clients like to do monologues, or they do combinations of both, where they'll do an interview show one week and then the next week they're simply doing a monologue or a lecture-like environment, maybe with some graphics or visuals to complement it. So there are a lot of forms to podcasting. Some prefer to do more of a narrative editing intensive environment where it's not just an end-to-end video, but it's actually a story they tell. And we can include sound design and musical transitions. And there's a wide variety of formats that can work. But the key here is to get the best out of your voice, my production partner, my client's voice, so that the content seems authentic. It's engaging their audience because it's all about the audience, and ultimately moves the business in the right direction for them.
So in this age where everyone seems to love video so much, what would be the advantage of doing an audio podcast?
So audio is interesting, Dr. Gurri, because it has advantages over video, oddly, and then the video has its advantages over audio, right? So in the audio world, I say, and this is the Kool-Aid that before I got involved with video more out of demand, I would say things like, look, people can't be jogging or driving or doing certain other activities and watching a video. So audio is probably easier from a standpoint of being mobile and more readily consumable, because you're not tying up a viewer's eyes. You're not tying up someone's eyes where they have to watch. And in many cases, they're only watching talking heads anyway, which may or may not be important to the listener. In some cases, it is. Some people like to look into the eyes of the person they're listening to, and others are very happy to just listen to it as an audio podcast. I mean, we know from the advent of iTunes, there are thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of audio podcasts that are highly successful. So the medium works. The other thing about audio only is, as strange as it seems, it's got an intimacy that's really born in the history of radio that is a one-to-one experience. I think it's different than video in that way. And you could argue that, well, I'm seeing someone, so isn't that intimate? But there's something about just listening to someone on earbuds or on your speakers or while you're driving or walking or jogging that is a one-to-one experience that I think is uniquely radio-esque with podcasting that doesn't happen with video. Now, with your programming, we are, as you mentioned earlier, we're creating both an audio and a video experience so a couple of things are happening. One is that people can consume it however they want to. It's readily available. And the other idea is that you're showing up in a lot more places than you would be otherwise, because on iTunes, we're issuing audio. On Blog Talk Radio, it's audio. On Stitcher, it's audio. But on YouTube, it's video, and by the way, YouTube is don't underestimate, I don't have to say this, YouTube is a profoundly powerful search engine in and of its own.
Well, I noticed that you have many hits and a huge tribe, so obviously it's a powerful tool. And back to the fondness of radio, I remember listening to Hi-Oh Silver when I was a kid and just came to this country, and I still have very, very fond memories of that. So it sounds like one of the things that everyone needs to do is find a way to decide how are they going to contribute in this world. Is it just about making money? Is it sharing ideas? Is it inviting others to participate? And I think that you help people do that in a very nice way so that we can get even more connected in this global community, which I think you do. I know you once said you like to help people have their voices heard. And I do believe you've accomplished that. So I'm grateful that we connected, and looking forward to hearing more of what you do. So what final words do you have to say to our podcast and radio audience?
Well, thank you for that, Dr. Gurri. Finally, I'd say, and I love your angle on helping the world be a better place, right? Repairing the world, we say in the Jewish space. I think if you were to ask me why I do this and why do I care, I think I really love helping others get their voice into the world. And ultimately, that's the why I do this. And that's the way I found myself in. And it took me some time and many pivots to figure out that that's really what I love to do. I mean, I was a kid as in first grade, I'd come to school with my little reel-to-reel Bakelite recorder and record the kids, on my block in Skokie, where I grew up, north side of Chicago. I would literally be the cameraman with a video camera while the kids were playing sports. So I have this thing about being the voyeur and the producer and the enabler and the amplifier. That's really the why I do this. So anyway, to wrap it up for this one.
You have not changed. Hey, do you have a picture of that?
I do. Okay. I have a picture. I'll cut it in right now so folks can see, because it's
please, that would be great.
Because I'll be editing this. Yeah, this is a picture of me it was in 1965 at my uncle's wedding. The photographer caught me staring at the microphone like you see me doing. It's kind of adorable, right?
Budding entrepreneur.
But it's funny about us as professional adults. We learn how not to be ourselves, and then in many cases we just come back home. And so the beauty is, right now I've come back home, and what I want to help other business people do is really get to the why they're doing what they're doing, and help their audience understand them better as people, and get their voice and their messages out so that we can make the world a better place, and also grow their business and the things that they want to do in the world. So that's it for in terms of addressing your question. Thank you for asking it. It's a great one.
Well, welcome home then, as we would say, David Wolf, with podcastingradio.com. That's the best way to reach him. He can help you share your ideas and help everyone know how they can reach you and why, what you can do for them. So thank you for stepping up with David Wolf, and certainly David Wolf, thank you for stepping up for us all.
Thanks for having me.
For more information, visit redshoeinstitute.com.